Hey, this is Emily from Refuge of the Womb. Thanks for watching this today. This is the second part of a two-part series about narcissism. If you haven't watched the first part, I would really suggest you go back and watch part A, as this is really a follow-up to that video. Part A looked at what is the definition, what is narcissism, and some tendencies or behavioral patterns that we can identify in ourselves and in others. So please go back and watch that before watching this video. This part of the series is going to be looking at the root of how these behaviors developed, looking at how the protection mechanism of these behaviors developed so that we can better understand, so that we can have compassion for ourselves and our tendencies, and also compassion for the other. Then I'm going to be jumping into a healing protocol that I would suggest that may be of use to you if you're going to be engaging in being around someone that may have these behaviors. And this healing protocol can be good in general with hanging out or being around someone that may have some toxic tendencies. Really good for some of us going home during the holidays that may have issues with some of the people that we might be, family members that we might be interacting with. So I'm going to jump right in. We're going to be looking at first the protective mechanism that was developed, and we can always go back and find it that it started in childhood. And usually what happens is the child was had parents that were narcissistic, or there was one of the parents was, and so this child basically is just repeating the patterns that they have learned. Which it's very common, and what happens is that it will continue to perpetuate the pattern down the ancestral line until someone decides to really sever the pattern and make a change and to correct these behaviors. The second part of looking at how narcissism or these behaviors developed can also be through a child feeling being abandoned by their parents or somewhat rejected by their parents. So I'm just going to give you a quick example. Let's say Billy, his dad was never around growing up. He never really knew his dad. And then his mom worked. She was the sole person that provided for the family. She provided for Billy, and she was actually very wounded and emotionally shut down. So not only was she not there because she was consistently working, but the time she was there, she was so emotionally hurt and wounded herself that she really couldn't care for her son, Billy. So what happened is that he looked to get a lot of his needs met by overworking in school, by pleasing other people, by doing things for other people. And what happened is that he started to get a sense of self by others giving him praise and really building up who he is. And so then the pattern usually it has been established. Now Billy is grown up. He's overworking. He has a high work ethic. He's defined by his work. Without his work, he doesn't feel like he is anyone. And he actually, it gives him a sense of overinflated ego. So that could be a narcissistic behavioral patterns that have been developed. So always we can look at the root of it. Underneath the root of that abandonment is pain. And this has been proven that humans are actually wired in the brain to move toward pleasure and away from pain. So understanding this, we can understand that the false protection mechanism that looks like it's giving us what we want, it's making us feel good about ourselves, is honestly just a protection mechanism that is really hiding some of the pain and the wounding that we feel in our hearts and our souls and our beings. So understanding this, understanding where the root of this develops, we can see that the person that has the narcissistic behavior is really just a wounded child inside. And can we see this person now that we can see their wounding, can we have some compassion for them? Can we see that maybe they grew up with neglect, they grew up with trauma, with abuse? So we're not condoning the behavior, but what we're doing is seeking to understand so that we can have a greater sense of acceptance of who this person is and their behavioral patterns, and also to have compassion. Also to have self-compassion for some of the ways that we might have been self-righteous, or that we may have had control issues and made the other person wrong. I know that I've had several control issues that I have really had to look at and unravel, and a lot of it always that I can find traces back to abandonment. So if I can give myself compassion for my own wounds, I can easily have compassion for others. So now we're going to be looking at jumping into a healing protocol if you're going to be engaging in someone with these behavioral patterns. And what I want to say before that you decide to maybe be with this person is, I want you to step into your truth, and I want you to step into making some good choices, and with having a level of discernment that maybe being with this person is actually incredibly toxic, and it may be not a good decision to even be around this person. So it kind of depends on the spectrum that we are, and this other person really being giving ourselves that knowing that, this person really is harming me, and it's not a good idea to be around this person. So this is actually the decision, a healing protocol, if you decide to engage with that person. This is a healing protocol that you can do for yourself. And this is also a healing protocol that you can do. A lot of these tools are in general very useful. I engage in these tools all the time. If I'm going to be going out to the city, if I'm going to be hanging around large groups of people, a lot of these tools are for self-care, for protection and safety, and what have you. So the first healing protocol that I recommend is always to establish an awareness of self. And by doing that, I have found it has been extremely helpful to have a practice of being in my body, of being centered and grounded. So what I usually do is, before I'm going to be going out somewhere, I close my eyes, I take a couple deep breaths, I allow the energy to sink toward my feet, and then I allow myself to feel Mother Earth, the connection of the Mother Earth below my feet. I allow myself to even visualize roots growing out of my feet, hooking into her energy, inviting that core strength up into my body. And then I say things to myself: I am present, I am available, I am here for myself. I can feel the strength of the mother below me. These are all things that I say. So, and a great practice to reaffirm our grounding and connection to Mother Earth is also yoga, running, jogging. These are all good practices to build self-awareness. The second healing protocol tool for self-care is developing energetic boundaries. So what I mean by this is, we're all energetic beings. We all get energy from different sources for living. I mean, without the sunshine, we would not be here, right? Without water, we would not be here. We get energy from that. So we are really energetic beings. So an energetic boundary practice of what I do is that I imagine a boundary of light wrapping around all the way my body. And then what I do is I fill up that boundary with light for protection, for safety. And then I fill up if there's any holes around, and I affirm that boundary of light. And I do this before I even leave the house, so that I feel this sense of protection, so that negative energy, negative things can't come into my field and penetrate me. So let's say that this person starts putting a lot of negativity on me. I have this boundary that I actually physically feel, so that things don't enter my space and hurt me. So you can learn more about this in depth. I can do a whole video on this, so I'm just briefly going over these protocols. The third one is, and a very important one, is set healthy boundaries and limits. Now, a lot of our boundary muscles in this society have been near none developed or very weak our boundaries, to really stand up for ourselves, to really know our value, to know our worth. And boundaries really are about respect, self-respect, respect for others, safety, honoring of self, establishing my needs, establishing my autonomy, and really, again, knowing my value and knowing my worth. So I've learned a lot about boundaries, and I, again, can do a whole video on this, but some examples are, if this person with this narcissistic behavior is trying to get you to do something, is putting stuff on you, is making demands of you that you don't feel good about, is telling you what you need to do, you can actually just say no. You don't need to have an explanation after that. That's actually a complete sentence. No, I'm not going to do that. Or no, I'm not. I don't agree with that. So that's really establishing this sense of self-care and a sense of your worth and value. Setting limits would be, this is really good to do around someone that has toxic behavior, as well as, especially with someone with narcissistic behavior is to set a time limit. So on Wednesday, I know that we're going to meet, and I only have a half an hour from 6 to 6:30, and that's the only time that I can spend with you. And during those 30 minutes, I'm going to give you my undivided attention, and we're going to spend, quality time together. But after that, I really need to go. So that would be like setting a limit, and really sticking to it. That's the really important thing about boundaries, is that person will go to great lengths to convince you why the boundary is wrong, why you're doing this, you're hurting them. So that's really important to know that that's really a projection of their stuff, which leads me to the next one, which is don't take their stuff personally. People that are narcissistic are notorious for throwing judgments, for throwing blame, for shaming people, for controlling people. And what you have to know is those things that are coming out of their mouths and onto you are really a reflection of their own wounding, and also a projection of their stuff out onto you, because the pain of their stuff is really too hurtful to actually own up to and to feel. And a lot of people with narcissistic behaviors they have an absolute inability to take responsibility for their feelings and their needs. So don't take what they say personally. And that's where the energetic light boundary comes in again. So when their words come at you, they can actually hit your boundary off your body and deflect. And you can actually imagine that. And the fifth one is self-care. So again, if it is actually more healthy for you to leave the room, then you can actually say that I need to leave the room. You have to be careful with people who are narcissistic, because they can't really take responsibility for themselves, or there's a very low threshold too. So if you try to explain your feelings and your needs, a lot of times you'll get more abuse and you'll be shut down. So it's really important to know that it may be best to remove yourself, to go take a walk, to process your emotions, to release your emotions of anger, to release your feelings of hurt, of betrayal, to feel your fear, to feel some of those feelings of being afraid. So that's really important too, and also to get support. Get support with a counselor, with someone that's really versed in these knowings of these behaviors. And also, you can also visit my website. If you can find support there, it's www.refugeofthewomb.com. And I'd be happy to help you through being able to understand more of these dynamics. It can get really entrenched. It can be really hard to see what are you responsible for, what are your needs, what is that other person throwing on you, and it really can get enmeshed and difficult to see what's going on. So please, please, please get some help if you are in this situation. If you're dealing with any toxic family member or friend, please, please, please seek help. So this is pretty much the end of this video. It's been wonderful to be of service and to share my gifts and knowledge with you. Again, if you haven't watched Part A, go back and watch Part A. And I really wish you a beautiful holiday, a beautiful Thanksgiving. And as we enter into the holidays, I just wish you so much love, so much self-care and respect for yourself. And thank you for doing your work, for your healing, and for your growth and evolution. Thank you so much. Bye.